Welcome to the Pain-Free Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Dana Jones. I am a certified personal trainer, and I'm here to help you achieve your fitness goals without pain. In each episode, I'll share tips and strategies that will help you stay safe and pain-free while you're working out. I'll also interview experts in the field of fitness and pain management. So if you're ready to learn how to stay active and pain-free, then subscribe to the Pain-Free Athlete Podcast today. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Pain-Free Athlete Roundtable. This is Roundtable number 3, and we're going to be talking about longevity and strength training. And I have 3 special guests that are here, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. I'm going to start off with Shelly. Go for it.
Hi there. I am Shelly Cannon. I am an entrepreneur and a lifelong athlete. I'm a neuro strength coach and a cancer obliterator. It's nice to meet you guys.
Welcome. Who's next? Go, Denise.
Okay, I'll go. My name is Denise Smith. I own Smith Physical Therapy Plus in Crystal Lake, Illinois. So we're a Chicago suburb. And our focus in our clinic is on longevity and the power of understanding how to move better to keep yourself moving through every aspect of your life. I'm honored to be here with all of you ladies. Thank you.
Welcome.
And thank you.
Last but not least, go
Thanks
for it.
for inviting me too. And hi, Denise and Shelly. And so I'm Andrea Lepcio. I'm a certified personal trainer and a yoga teacher, and I help people over 40 stay strong, mobile, and confident through my company, Mighty Fit. So I offer services predominantly online. I also will see people in person. And I wasn't always active myself, so I know how life-changing smart training can be. And now I help others unlock the same potential, especially as we age when it matters.
Thank you so much. What is one word that you would use to describe how you feel about training for lifelong fitness? And I'll start with you, Andrea, since you're already there.
I would say consistency is my key word. That one and done ain't how it works. You've got to set a schedule, be true to yourself in that schedule, and be consistent.
Fantastic.
I see lots of nods.
Yeah, great word. So I would say resilience. I think it's this combination of being able to do strengthening, like lifting heavy, adaptability, thinking about mobility and flexibility, and then your long-term outlook, so that longevity. So resilience seems to be a word that shows that even if things go wrong, you can bounce back and try again.
Thank you. That is one of my favorite words, and probably one I would have used if you didn't beat me to it. No, that's okay. I'm going to go with empowered because so much that I've learned from all the functional fitness throughout my life, from discipline to just believing in myself and identifying as someone who's strong and can do hard things, that empowered me to beat my stage 4 cancer. And I've seen it empower so many others to do so many things. And it's just such a gift that I can't wait for everyone to get a little bit more on board of the whole long-term longevity and how important it is, not just to look good, but to feel good for a long time.
That's great. So while you're here, Shelly, what's one movement you think everyone should master for
The
lifelong?
hip hinge.
Say
Hip
that
hinge.
again?
I think the hip hinge.
Okay.
Hips are sacred. I think we have to strengthen them and protect them at all costs, so we don't end up with some broken hip in the hospital that takes us up.
I'm going to pair mine with that one because hip hinge, absolutely. And I'd go for, and so I really try to teach the squat as the method of teaching the hip hinge, because it's really the king of all movements, and it keeps your legs and your hips and your core strong. And it's just so much about what you sit and stand, and you want to be able to sit and stand. And I have had older clients that start to lose the ability to stand, which we don't want to do. So I think the squat is a great one. And even if somebody comes in and they're on the weaker side, I just say, just sit and stand a few times, and as they get stronger, we can teach an actual squat. So, yeah.
And to play in both of those movements, which I totally value, is getting on and off of a floor without being able to use your hands. So I think if you have the strength to do that, even if there's a fall, getting up, a lot of the fall isn't the issue. It's the fact that people can't get up.
Yeah. For me, I love any kind of anterior tibialis work because I feel like everything is anchored in the feet. And because we spend our lifetimes abusing our feet, for whatever reason, we always want to do calf raises, but nobody ever
Mhm.
wants to do the anterior tibialis work because it hurts, it burns. But that's what gets those toes going, and that's what stops you from the shuffle and all the weird things that people start to do as they age. And even I've noticed the difference in how I move with the strength in the front of my leg. And
Mhm.
so that's always a good one. But I definitely agree with all of you, because we all know, and it's almost a pattern, that when someone who is older in age breaks their hip, it really does shorten their life, and if not, take them out completely, depending on their other health risks.
Mhm.
So, yeah, movement is wonderful. So, Denise, if you could describe your training style in 3 words, what would those 3 words be?
Feel like this podcast is going to be a lot of us all nodding and cheering and saying the same words. I have found my tribe with you ladies and our thinking on this. So I'm sorry if I take ones that you guys already have, but I would say mobility, strength, and stability. So making sure your joints can move through full range of motion, making sure you're strong enough to be able to tolerate the forces that work on us, and then making sure you're stable enough that you can balance on one leg, balance on uneven surfaces, so that you're calling in all the muscles that you need to be able to function in everyday life.
Go ahead, Shelly.
Wow, she did a great job on that. So since those I agree with all of that wholeheartedly, like you predicted, I'm gonna go with intuitive. Part of before I start any training, I try to make everyone, we do an assessment of where their ranges of motion are. If there's any muscles that are maybe lagging compared to the other side, we want to balance everything before we load any kind of weight. Intuitive, I guess, is what we'll use there. And then integrative, because I want to bring on all kinds of different modalities. And the last I'll say is fun, because if it's not, then you're not going to stick with it.
100%.
I think mine are practical: smarter, safer, stronger. That's what I'd go with for my 3 words. So I'm really focused on efficient, joint-friendly movement, and to help people to feel capable and stay away from injury and hurting themselves.
That's great. All right. We'll start you off with Andrea. So what's one myth about aging and fitness that you would like to bust?
Well, so I'm rehearsing this because it's happening in a month. I'm about to turn 68. So I'm rehearsing it. So that aging doesn't mean slowing down, right? I mean, like I haven't slowed down in any way, shape, or form. I am not much different than I've ever been, honestly. I mean, there's things I can't do anymore, but I'm not much different than I ever was. And I think in reality, the older we get, it's more important to challenge ourselves, and we have to be intelligent about it. But it's more important to challenge ourselves as we get older, and that's how we're going to maintain our independence for as long as we possibly can, which is my ambition. Yeah.
Mhm.
Sorry, if somebody's making noise where I am.
Go ahead, Shelly.
One that drives me crazy is the myth that basically after 30, everything starts falling apart. Especially with my powerlifting career, I learned that we don't even hit some of our best strength years until mid 40s and later. And I see super strong women in their 70s just breaking records left and right. And I hate that whole after 30. When any one of my friends says it, I'm like, just stop. Like, no, it's not true. Come train with me. I'll show you.
And I would say mine is agility and reflex training are only for athletes. I think that if we can keep
Mhm.
working on our quickness and our reaction time when those falls, your feet start to stumble, being able to recover from that, I think that's how we can make ourselves sharper in our movements and prevent falls, by working on that reaction time and agility.
For sure. Shelly, I have to kind of go back and say I absolutely agree with you. And I don't even, first of all, I don't even know if I knew what my body was capable in my 20s. Like when I
Mhm.
refer back, like I don't, there's things that I could do, right? I was in the military, so I could do 32 push-ups in 2 minutes or something like that. Like, okay, cool, I could do that. But in terms of, I think I took it for granted. I don't even know if I was even present, to be
Which is
perfectly
easy,
honest.
right?
Right, it's so weird. And the things that I do now, like the strength that I have now, is kind of crazy.
Mhm.
And I feel a lot stronger than I did then. I mean, I'm sure part of it has to do with nutrition too, because in your 20s, you're probably eating like shit anyway. But I feel so much stronger now than I did back then. And
Mhm.
again, I don't know if it's because I'm just paying attention to it and I'm actually documenting it, where probably when I was, 20 something years old, I wasn't paying attention, didn't care, and was just trying to get from A to B.
Mhm.
So anyway, good things. All right. So I'll start off with you since you're here. And so a question is, were you ever explicitly taught the principles of functional movement or strength for longevity? What did it look like? And what do you wish you'd learned earlier?
So I was very fortunate to be taught after all my NASM training and bodybuilding. And I got with this really cutting edge gym that was into neurokinetic therapies and things like that. So, like I mentioned earlier, part of every session started with we had a table and we would assess their ranges of motion and make sure they were even left to right, make sure their torso rotation was matching, even their neck, look how their feet hit the ground, are their arches falling on one side, is a knee collapsing? We would get all of that solid before doing anything. And, some people would get really frustrated with it because they're like, I want to go train. And I'm like, okay, but I can see now that you're not even turning to the right. Like you have 15 degrees. We even had a goniometer. We were measuring all this. Now I can do it just by sight, thankfully. But I'm so lucky to have learned that. But the thing that I wish that I would have learned earlier, I didn't learn until later when I was at the Hippocrates Wellness Center, the Complete Cancer Wellness Camp. And it's just focus on, I did touch on the brain because it was neurokinetic stuff, but this was way more into like vestibular and just the power of the brain over the body and how important that is. And an example that they gave that always just resonated with me is that, if someone has a multiple personality disorder and they slip into another personality that has a different eye color, their brain will change their eye color. If they have diabetes or if they don't, their physiology will match what their brain thinks they are. So using that and hacking that and telling yourself, I'm an athlete, I'm this strong, resilient force, like I love hard things. I can do anything. It just changes the framework for everything in your life and not just fitness. And I wish I would have learned that earlier.
That's good. Who's next?
Oh, I can answer the same question. So I really learned both my yoga and my Tai Chi training. So another training, I'm also trained in Tai Chi, really taught me a lot about functional movement for longevity. And in Tai Chi, I practice Sun style, and we call it the nimble-footed style because of how we move our feet in the practice. And it's all about balance, and it's very it's a wonderful practice to teach people for fall prevention, so that they kind of understand their bodies and when their center of gravity shifts and how to shift it back and how to avoid falling. And in yoga, and Denise was already talking about this, in yoga, I emphasize in my trainings, and I have mostly older students, getting down on the floor safely, getting back up safely. What are all the ways that we can approach that? What can we do, whether it's in and out of a downward facing dog or a deep squat? How are we getting down? How are we getting up? And how are we managing that? Yeah. Yeah. And I think for me, I wish I'd learned. I had a foot injury very young. I was a dancer when I was much younger in my 20s, and I had a foot injury. So I went to see a doctor, and the doctor said to me, I'm like 25 or something. And he said to me, stop dancing. And I just thought, okay, let's find a different approach, because that's not the approach. So
Right.
it's just like, it's so ridiculous that kind of those people that just want to shut it down as opposed to train for it.
And as a physical therapist, I think our training in functional movement starts in our schooling. But I think because of insurance companies, we only can get patients back to like baseline or what their prior level of function was. And I always believe that they could do more than that. So I wish I had my very first job was in a nursing home. And I look back now and all the opportunities that I missed at that time. I wish I could go back to my 25-year-old self and tell her that you can push these patients harder. They don't want to be stuck in bed. So I shouldn't just be doing leg lifts with them. I should be getting them up and out of bed and getting them on and off the toilet. And I wish I had done that more at the time. But now it's, how heavy can I get some of my patients to lift safely? We work on the hip hinge and the squat and we get all those functional movements down, but it's not just baseline for me anymore, because sometimes baseline is what got them into therapy in the first place, because that's when they fell. And so I love that philosophy of whether you're in Tai Chi or yoga or with a personal trainer, that there's so many people in our world that can be part of our patient's journey, that are encouraging them to do these things past what they were doing before to help them live a longer life.
I asked this question because I was never, as a fitness trainer, that was something that I never got trained with. There was never a discussion about longevity at all. It was really about what can you do for the person now and what are their athletic goals. So is it to play a sport? Is it to be a bodybuilder? Whatever it may be. So that was the focus, but it was never about longevity. And for me, the shift came when I had a friend of mine who said, I just want to be able to get off the ground and play with my grandkids. And I went, oh, well, at first I thought, well, that's ridiculous. And then I thought about it. I was like, holy crap, she's not wrong. We should be able to do those movements. And of course, now everybody's talking about it. And Peter Attia and Von Wright, like it's all, now it's a thing because we're all in that age. And we did, like Andrea said, get a lot of that advice because I got the same advice for migraines where I said, well, I migraines when I'm playing softball outside. And they're like, well, stop playing. And I did. I literally listened because I was 25 years old and I was like, okay, I'll stop. And I was so miserable. And of course, everybody around me was miserable because I had to torment people because I wasn't playing something that I absolutely loved because I thought by not working out and by not moving that somehow my migraines were going to miraculously be healed. And of course, it was all bullshit. And that mind body piece really kicked in and I really understood. Now I understand how much I was holding. And if just having that conversation with a competent provider would have helped a lot more than what I got in terms of don't do that anymore. You know, what is it, right? What is it? Doc, it hurts when I do that, then don't do that.
I'll do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's, you know, a joke from like the 50s. So it should like go away now. That is not something that is what we should be doing.
You know, that reminds me one more thing, if you don't
Sure.
mind. One other thing I wish I would have learned earlier, that pain does not mean that something is broken or even wrong. It
Right.
can mean that your brain perceives danger or risk. And so it's slowing down your range of motion, it's giving you a pain signal, it's trying to protect you because that's its job. It doesn't mean you have a broken spine and don't ever do anything ever again. It means let's teach your brain that it's safe to move in these ranges. And I think that is something most people have no idea.
Right. We're getting better. I
Yeah.
have to say, we are getting better. I mean, that's the whole point of me doing this, right? And doing this podcast is because I'm trying to get people that information so that they don't do what I did and just shut everything down and say, okay, I'm going to not live my life any longer because I'm in pain. And if they could cut down the amount of time that they're down, because you may be down, right? Denise deals with people that may have torn something. Obviously, you're going to be down, right? So, but how you recover from being down has also a lot to do with mindset and the support you receive, right? So if I go to Denise and she's like, yeah, you tore that ACL, you're never going to be right again. My outcomes are going to be very different than she's like, you tore your ACL. It's going to be stronger now that it's repaired and let's get you balanced and ready to go. Do your next thing, whatever that may be, then I'm like, yay, all right, I'm into this. Okay, it's just a minor setback, let's go. But we live in fear. And I mean, it's everything, right? It's across the news, it's everywhere. There is a need for us to be in a fearful state. And that's also affects longevity. And if we're not fearful, then imagine. I think of you because I always remember there was a story way back when of a woman who had cancer and she did her research and she found out like, if I put positive things into my system, then I'm going to have positive outcomes and I'm not going to be somebody who people are going to feel sorry for. And so she made an effort to every night watch comedy shows and things that made her laugh. And she only did things that she wanted to do. And she made sure that she did her traditional treatment, but then there was all the supportive stuff as well to make sure that she was in the right mindset and she was able to receive the treatment properly. And I think that's important because a lot of times people are like, oh God, you're going to die. And then how are you able to recover if you think you're going to die?
Yeah. And that goes right into also surrounding yourself with people who are going to push you further rather than hold you back. And that goes for personal trainers, medical people, friends, family. Like
Right.
I had to really, my first oncologist she had very dark outcomes for me. Like you will probably live less than 2 years. Just go make yourself comfortable. And I was like, we're not the same. This isn't going to work for me. Yeah. So I went and found one who agreed wholeheartedly with all the alternative stuff I wanted to try. I was ready to try everything. I was excited about it. Like, this isn't a challenge. Like, let's do this. Let's show him how easy this can be. And he was like a huge cheerleader for me, and I never looked back. So I think that should apply to everywhere in your life. Yeah.
Yeah. And well, and also props to you for having the bravery to fire your provider.
Yeah. Most people think your doctor just knows everything, right?
Yeah. And no, there are a lot of different doctors and a lot of them and you have to find somebody who matches who you are and what what your proposed outcomes are. Right. And if they walk in with a dark hood and like, you're like, bye, buddy. That's not what we're doing right now. And it's the same thing when you're dealing with older clients as well, is just that idea that they're incapable, you're old, you're incapable of moving. And that's not things we should ever have to deal with. All
I
right.
always remind my clients that I always ask if they were athletes, at some point in time, whether they have some grammar school memory or high school memory or college memory, or they were more serious athletes. I always, no matter what condition they're in now, I had a client who was like shuffling, Parkinson's, quite elderly. He had been a hockey player, and that ability to balance on skates was still in his body. So I was always celebrating that with them. I would do a little balancing and I would like, look at you, look at how well you balance. You know what I mean? Because there were so many people judgmental of him and, worried about him. And so I was just trying to really celebrate the things that I could see that were positives in his body still. Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody needs
Yeah.
a cheerleader.
Yeah.
For
And I
sure.
feel like
All
now
right.
I'm seeing these trends. I'm sorry.
No.
These trends with,
I was going to call on you anyway.
okay. These Skechers slip-ons. No need, the commercials now, no need to bend over anymore. And I'm like, that is the worst thing, because that's a big predictor of falls, is if you can bend over to touch your toes. So I think that I can see how the marketing works in these things, but I also think, like Shelly was saying, you can have pain. Pain's a liar in my head.
Mm-hmm.
You can have dysfunction on one side, but is compensating on the other. Or people don't want to rotate through their spine because a doctor told them once, oh, you have a herniated disc, you should never rotate again. But they forget that they have to rotate to bend over to pick up their grandkids. So I think that the culture around pain is so misunderstood. And that's why, Dana, I'm so appreciative for your podcast, because every time I listen to one of your podcasts, I'm like, she's saying all the right things to get people out of this mindset that pain, like Shelly was saying, that pain is a bad thing. It's not. It's our body telling us that we're still alive and that we can strengthen through that. Yes, you're right. There are bad things that happen and sometimes we do have to recover. But I think overall, I think the empowerment that you can feel from pain, and as it starts to go away, like I strengthened through that. I did that. I beat that. And I think that is a lifelong change for people to understand that they are actually the ones that are in control of their body.
But how many times do you all run into people that actually celebrate themselves?
Seldom.
Not that often.
Especially not women.
Yes. And that's the frightening piece about it, is that we really are afraid to say like, damn, look at me. I got up without using my hands. I mean, I'm doing something because I was listening to, I was behind and I was listening to a Mel Robbins podcast, and she had Vonda Wright on, and she was talking about the push-ups. And so I decided at work, because we always try to do something fitness wise. And I said, all right, we haven't done, does anybody know how to do a push-up? And there's a couple of us we have one lady who's, I think she's 66 or something like that. And she can crank out push-ups like nobody's business, because she's just a beast. And she's a farm strong kind of lady. Like, she's out there milking her goats, doing all this other stuff. I mean, she's just insanely strong, but that's been her life, is that she just, she was in the Peace Corps, and she remembers that she was with the women and they were at the fire and they're cooking for the day, and they're all in the squatted position for like 2 hours, and nobody got up and complained that their hip hurt or anything like that. And so that's always been her mindset, is that I want to be like these women and I don't want to have these issues. So she can crank out push-ups. The rest of us, not so much. And so we've been doing this challenge, and it is so funny how weird everybody is being. I can't do that. I don't know. And I'm not asking, like, today's, oh, we're doing chaturanga push-ups. You need to do 50. It's all, you need to do 5. And they're like, no. And so then I find myself like cheerleading, like, look at you, you did it. You did this. And they're like meekishly smiling that they can't really accept it. It's, are you sure? And then I'm doing other things like, oh, look, I could see your tricep muscle starting to pop out. See, this is working. Oh, but I'm not like you. Nobody's like me. No, you know what? And I'm not like so-and-so. But it's this weird comparison piece. This is weird. We don't want to celebrate ourselves. It feels showy. It feels maybe obnoxious or whatever. But then we're totally comfortable self-deprecating.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, nah, you don't need to do that. Right. It's like, we need to move forward. So I don't know. It's just funny to me that that's where we are, is that because we should be able to celebrate the things that we are able to do, whether it's in fitness or whether it's in your everyday life. If you set a boundary with somebody, you're like, I'm so damn glad I got rid of that person because now I can breathe and I'm not cleaning up their mess or whatever it may be. We should celebrate ourselves for sure. All right,
Agreed.
Denise, you're up. I want you to share a moment where your training made a difference in someone's life and that you saw the quality of their life change as a result of their training.
We had a patient that was taking care of her mother. So her mother had moved in with her. And so her life began to circle around her mom and her mom's needs, which I appreciated the loyalty and the love that she was giving her mom. But once her mom died, she realized how deconditioned she'd been. And she was kind of jumping from doctor to doctor to help her figure out what was going on with her shoulder pain, and then her hip, and then her other hip, then her knee. And finally, I was like, what is your biggest fear? And she said, I'm afraid I'm gonna fall because now I don't have anybody at home that could call if something were to happen. And I said, well, can you get up? And she's like, oh, sure, I can get up. So we got her on the floor and she could not get up. She could not figure out the strategy to get up. And she just sat there and cried. I think she was crying about a lot of things in what had recently happened with the loss of her mom. But I think that it hit her too, that she had lost herself in all of that. And so she slowly started working on little bits and pieces of learning how to roll over and kind of getting into that down dog position to like get herself up, or learning how to get herself to her elbows and crawling to a chair, and then being able to push up from the chair to standing. And I think watching that systematic approach to her getting stronger to combat her fear was meaningful for both of us, because I realized that she now was empowered to want to live a better, safer life with the focus on strengthening. And she said, I said, it was the same kind of question as, what kind of athlete were you when you were younger? She and her girlfriends back in the 50s would go climb water towers in the middle of the night. I was like, you're such a badass, So I would never climb a water tower. So to hear her tell these stories about what her and her girlfriends did when they were in their teenage years and in her 20s, I thought, if you can climb a water tower, you can get off the floor. And so that it's been really fun. And now I see her, she's working with one of our personal trainers, throwing around a kettlebell. I watched her the other day do a shoulder press with a dumbbell in one hand and squat down and pick up a kettlebell with the other. And so to see that transformation, we had to put her through that horrible feeling of realizing you've completely lost control of your body, to now get her to see her doing that. This is why I love our jobs. I love helping people because it's so inspirational and change the way I look at the capabilities of what our patients can do.
Andrea?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, this question. Yeah, I've got a 75-year-old client who plays tennis and rides horses. So she's very, very active, but she came in with all kinds of shoulder pain and really tight hamstrings. And so we really worked on, and so for her shoulders are super mobile and she has a very difficult time stabilizing her shoulders. And so we worked on shoulder stability moves. For the hamstring, we worked on deadlifts and bridges, and we worked on stretching these very tight hamstrings. And then she found she was playing better tennis and enjoying it more and getting up on the horse a little bit easier. And she's also another one who also likes to sit down on the ground and play with the grandkids, right? And so that had gotten challenging too. So everything got a little bit better, so it's not, we're not always just building strength. We're always also building this, this functional fitness so people can do what they love. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Am I up?
Yes, Shelly.
Okay. So I have, gosh, this is my favorite story. This is a man in his 60s. He's been on my powerlifting team for like 15 years, and just a super strong, just great guy. And he got diagnosed with Parkinson's. So started to get some downward spirals, pain, lack of function. His strength was going down. One of his eyes had started drifting to the right. And so he was having double vision and balance problems. So he came in and I was like, well, like if there's one thing I could do in this session that would make you feel better, like what could I do? Like so we can at least say we got something accomplished here. And he said, I just want to feel okay. You know, like my brother's dying from this. There's nothing he can do. You know, I feel like this is just me circling the drain. And, you know, and I said, okay, well, you know, we may not be able to completely fix this, but I do think your quality of life can get so much better than it is right now. You know, like, so let's see what we can do. And I could cry thinking about it. We started with some eye exercises, just the pencil push-ups, something so simple. His eye returned to center instantly.
Mm.
And then he was able to see not double anymore. Then we tested his balance and he was all over the place, could not stand on his foot for even a second. And I had him do a vestibular reset. I don't know if you guys know the one where you should also do this after flights because your brain doesn't know where you are in space after that, but where you would snap your head to one side and then slowly come back to center with the other side and then up and down. And then he could stand forever on that foot after that. It was like his brain was just so scared about where he was that it was limiting everything. And it was just wanting him to like be still and not move. So once we got through all that, and I was like, already, I feel we've won here. I was able to test his ranges, get his shoulder to open back up without pain. And it was all about just like, and I think once he got those couple of first wins, he started to see that like, I can make a difference with it. I can manage this, you know, and like, this isn't the end. So he's now, he's competing in powerlifting. He won the powerlifting competition he did.
Nice.
And he's getting stronger and it's just awesome to watch.
That's awesome. Yeah.
He was going to have a really expensive eye surgery and now he doesn't have to.
No. Yeah, that's where they cut the ligaments in the nope, don't want that one. I know for me, I had a client who had plantar fasciitis so bad that she couldn't even walk her dog. And she fell. And how I found out was I saw a post on Facebook that she had fallen. And she's like, well, you know, it was just something that happened. And I said, come see me. And she ignored me. And then I texted her. I was like, come see me. So then she came in and she's like, well, I really don't want to see you. And I said, I know you don't because you don't want to hear what I have to say. As you know, she goes, well, the sidewalk was uneven and that's why I fell. And I said, nope, that's bullshit. That is not why you fell. I said, let's look at it. And she had no strength in her hip flexors. And because she had gone to the doctor with the plantar fasciitis and he said, you can't walk. And so she stopped walking and she stopped doing anything. So all she was doing was sitting, and she had young grandchildren that she was participating with, but unable to fully participate in the play with them. And I don't know, she's like 5 or 6 grandkids ranging from, I think, 3 to up. And so we worked on hip flexor strength. And then I was like, we're going to do something different. She's like, well, I can't walk. And I said, but you can get in the pool. And she's like, well, my hair.
It's an excuse.
She said, because she's like, I'm Southern. And I said, I understand. She goes, but my hair. And I said, you could wear a cap. So she started getting in the pool and she's all like, I can't believe how much I like it. And then I gave her some exercises to work on, again, the front of her foot. Plantar fasciitis, 95% of the time is the imbalance in the strength. And people are like, no, I have to get it, surgically repaired. I can't walk. I have to buy all these inserts and everything else. And she had to get rid of all her stuff because she didn't need it anymore. And she was doing water fitness and she loved it. And then she was able to walk her dogs. And then I'm getting all these wonderful updates about how she's like running on the beach with her grandchildren and doing all these things. And like what Denise is saying, that's why I do it, is because for me to be able to give people back their lives is an amazing thing to be able to see. And sometimes fear will destroy you. It makes your world very small. And I think all of what we're doing is trying to open up people's worlds and let them know that, you're not dead yet. Like nobody's digging the grave. You're okay. And you're going to survive. And I think that's very important. So I'll start you off, Shelly, with why do you think training for longevity is overlooked, especially in the mainstream programs? When you look at like P90X and Insanity and stuff like that, and even when you look at CrossFit, like I don't think any of those movements are built for.
Yeah, I think. Well, obviously, it's not sexy. It's not really marketable. And a lot of people want a quick fix, and it's definitely the opposite of that. And you know, it's funny, you know, as an athlete going through at the top of my game, you know, whatever, I had no idea that, you know, in my mid 30s, I was going to have like cancer surgery and my ovaries shut down, and then all your ligaments start shutting down. Like, you don't know how early any of this stuff could hit you. And I think preparing for it early on, and having that as your lifelong base that you keep building on is just so important. And it's a shame that it's not flashy or marketable.
It's true.
I think that the mainstream, I think my definition of mainstream fitness has changed a little bit because of the way the algorithms work on social media channels. So in the beginning, until I learned how to manipulate my feed a little bit, I think mainstream fitness tends to focus on quick fixes, like Shelly was saying. So it's the hard work is not always fun for people. So I think that it tends to focus on weight loss, aesthetics, quick performance, depending on what your goal is. But now that I follow people like Dr. Wright and Dr. Atia, you know, my feed is filled more with longevity. And so I do see a lot of people talking about, and now it's like filled with perimenopause because I'm going through that. It's like it knows that I'm going through this. But I think ignoring longevity means missing the foundation of movement. And so I think if we can keep people healthy and independent, that longevity will improve. Right now, 65% of the people in my town are over 65. And so we have made it a mission here in our city to work with the police department and fire department on fall prevention, response times, things like that, to help people try to get up on their own from a fall, or on education on fall prevention. And I think you can manipulate your own mainstream media, whatever that source is, by trying to make changes. And that's what we're doing. If we can't fight this battle of Skechers shoes putting out these horrible options for people, we're going to just start getting to the events where everyone is to teach them about fall prevention, or working with the fire department to have them, when they go do a lift assist, say, why don't we get you some help to keep this from happening again? I just think this decline in quality of life that everyone's used to doing is changing a little bit. I do feel like we're seeing a little bit of a shift. People are living longer and they're living better.
Yeah, I'll add that you know, a lot of people will say, "Are you?" If I say, "Are you getting exercise?" Well, I walk. Or worse, I try to get some walking in. You know what I mean? And you know, walking is fine. Walking is great. I love to take a walk, but if you're not strength training, then you know, then you're not going to you're not being healthy. And let me talk specifically about osteoporosis, because many people get a diagnosis of osteopenia or osteoporosis, and doctors don't tell them anything. Try to push some pills and or say go take a walk. Yes, it's weight bearing, but if you have osteoporosis, you better be lifting heavier and heavier weights to build the muscle and rebuild the bone density, and that's what has to happen. So I think you know, mainstream fitness, like kind of this idea of like cardio is all you need, is you know, is so foolish. We really need strength training. And I just you made me, Denise, you made me think about the social media and algorithm and everything. One thing that's interesting to me is that I am 100%, like all my social media, I'm talking about working with older clients, and I'm a gray-haired person jumping up and down and demonstrating things. And strangely, on Instagram, most of my followers are 24 to 34. And what I think is interesting about that is that I think they're tuning into realizing the journey they're on. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think they're following me because they kind of get that they're on a journey and I'm the further end of the journey, but they're on the same journey. You know, it's just interesting that they're following me.
You should be so
Well,
proud
and
of
I'll
that.
challenge.
I created new stuff for them.
Yeah. Well,
should
and
be
I'll challenge you
celebrating
on that too, because you're also not peddling something that is difficult, right? Like, as much as you know, if I'm 25 years old, I want to do, you know, whatever, some heavy lifting or, you know, crazy competition or hit workouts. What you're doing is easy for me to do. And then, of course, as you're talking through whatever you're doing, I'm all, oh, this will help later. So then it works. And I think that's going back to what Shelly was saying, like that's marketable, right? Is that it's not something that I have to fake or lie about, right? Like, oh, I went and did a fit workout and puked in a can and now I'm so much stronger, kind of thing. It's like you're actually doing something that is going to give me long-term strength. But then as they're listening to you and you're giving them more information, you are influencing your own algorithm, right? You're letting these people empower themselves to understand that they are what they're going to do. They could do anytime, anywhere, and it doesn't have to be, in a gym at this period in time, like going crazy and blowing out my Achilles or whatever these crazy people are doing when they're trying to, I have clients that are actually averse to it. Like they want to do CrossFit and they'll come to me and they go, oh, we're doing balance work or we're working with dumbbells or damn, you're doing core. I hate core, that kind of stuff. And they said, I just want to go lift with, barbells and whatever. And I'm like, okay. And so they go to the CrossFit gym and then they get hurt and then they come back to me because they weren't getting the proper coaching. And again, I'm not bashing CrossFit, but there is definitely an age range that is appropriate for CrossFit. And it's about a 10-year, 25 to 35 is about it. And then after that, you should probably not be doing CrossFit, or you should alter it so that it is more of a stable exercise and not, with crazy 20-year-olds running around thinking you could throw shit around.
Or you just have to find a
Shelly may have a different. Go ahead.
I think we have a CrossFit gym that's on the other side of our building, CrossFit Crystal Lake, and they tailor it to the individual. And they have different programmed workouts. So I have found actually that the CrossFit experience for my patients has been awesome.
Nice.
They make it, they change if it's some kind of 50-pound lift. They will put you sandbags to show our older patients that they're carrying 50 pounds because that's what the dog food weighs. And so I think they have really learned how to encourage make it more personalized, which I think, because I know there are gyms that don't, but I have been very blessed to have a partner on the other side of this building that does.
Yeah. No, we had some pretty crazy, irresponsible people. Like I've had people blow out their backs. I've had people get yelled at too. I had one guy who's like, he's a phenomenal athlete. And he's like, I don't like getting yelled at. He's like,
And suffering. Suffering is not my thing anymore. I'm done with suffering in my life.
Yeah. But you power lift. I mean, do you suffer with powerlifting?
See, I don't, but I'm built different. So that goes into even like the next question, like how do we meet people, or what was the question? Support at any age, like how do they do it better? Meet them where they are and know that person, just like what you were saying, Denise, and build structured around them. What's going to work for you? And it can be anything from, okay, Dana, you were in the military. You might like structure. You might like a checklist of things to do, and it's going to be in a form and all the same.
All the things.
Great, let's work with that. It might be like me, I'm kind of a rebel. If you give me a list of things to do, I'll be like, I can do that better and I want to do it different. But knowing that person, their personality, their motivations, are they a social person? Will competition help them because they used to be an athlete? Like, will that drive them further? Like, what is it going to be? And just personalizing.
So since you're already there, or I guess we'll switch over to Denise, how could you better support people? How could you, when you're dealing with multiple ages and teaching them how to develop sustainable strength?
Having a community that supports them at that point, I think, is where we can see people be more consistent. So I know there's this whole pickleball craze right now, but I think that community of pickleball players, they're super competitive. I'm now seeing more of our patients. Yes, they're getting hurt, which has been great for business, but it's helped us realize we need to start building some programs that work on speed and agility and strength for the pickleball player to work on preventing an injury. But they are now showing up every day to do the gym classes and to get stronger and to do pickleball with their friends. And so I think that has really, and I'm curious, this will be really interesting to watch, is what happens to our fall rates as pickleball. We're getting a new pickleball place in town. We have one that's about 20 minutes from here. Every tennis place now has a pickleball court. So I am curious to see what's going to happen to our fall rates as pickleball keeps increasing in popularity, to see if it goes down a little bit. And so I think finding that tribe, that group of people that motivate you to get out of bed. I work out with a group of ladies 2 times a week. Knowing that they're all here working out and I'm still in bed, I'm like, get your butt out of bed. So I think that consistency through community is a good way to motivate people.
Sure. Andrea?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we've said a lot here. I'm the same, you've got to meet people where they are. You've got to, exactly where they are right now because, as I say, I've had clients who can barely get out of a chair. And then I've got clients who are playing golf 3 times a week, right? So those are different individuals in different places. So I've got to design a program that meets them where they are. With everybody, I really emphasize form. And I always say that I do give core exercises, but I always say every exercise is a core exercise, right? And I'm all about posture, right? So that if we talk about your posture and your form and you're using that while you happen to be doing a bicep curl, then you're actually working your core while you're doing that bicep curl. So that's a lot of the programming that I designed to just sort of make sure that the whole body is super integrated, even if we're working on a particular muscle. Yeah.
Mhm.
And that kind of slips into the exercise piece of like, what's a great exercise that you would like to share. And I know for me, I love doing the bicep curl on one leg
Mhm.
Mhm.
because it's something so minimal because they could probably already curl. And then all you have to do is, and it's funny because it really depends on the person because sometimes people like that the leg lifted toward the front because that may be their
Mhm.
strength. And then some people like it to lift it toward the back because
To the
their
back. Yeah.
hamstrings or their booty's a little stronger. But just doing it on that one leg really does create that balance. And I know for people that I work with, they need to be more upright because of the fact that a lot of them are runners. And when you're upright, you get a lot of air and you can see things and it's better than running
Mhm.
with your head down or doing all that kind of good stuff. Posture's
Yeah.
everything.
I love anything compound. I love anything compound. So I will typically compound any exercise if I can. If they can
Mhm.
focus, then I'll compound it. But I love my one exercise. If I throw one more in is I love the wood chop.
Mm.
Mhm.
And what's great about the wood chop is it multi-level, right? So I can start empty-handed, right? Just doing the gesture. Once I'm comfortable with that, I can add a resistance band, I can add a dumbbell, I can add a kettlebell, I can add a medicine ball. So it's one that you can, train and it's a core carver if you do it right. It's really going to carve and shape your core if you do it right and it's got all this great functional movement to it too.
Well, and you could start on your knee or you could be up on your feet. You can
So many ways.
modify
So many ways.
everything.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's a great exercise.
Yeah.
Shelly, what's yours?
I really got to second the wood chopper. I use it all the time in all different ways. So now I got to come up with something different. But I like to really, I like sandbags because I like how it builds in that instability. And
Mm.
it's really going to make you like everything you do, you're going to kind of work on getting stable before you can go to the next part of the movement. It's just like a built in compound. And then like weighted carries, I think are super good just on so many levels. And if I
Those are
want to throw
brittle.
in, yeah, they really are. And it's even worse. I mean, and it can keep getting harder. Like for some of my powerlifting, if they have maybe an imbalance in their core, I will load an overhead barbell with an imbalance and then make them do lunges with it. And it's going to correct and strengthen in ways you didn't ever think possible.
Dang.
But that's like way down the road, of course. But yeah, and then also just I know I agree regular walking is not enough, but I think if you do with a weighted carry or with a weighted vest, it's great. And also, I would really want to say sunrise and sunset walks are the foundation of my health. And for things that are way outside of the realm of this conversation, but just circadian rhythm for your hormonal balance, for energy levels, for your sleep quality and recovery, getting the sunset, getting that light into your eyes can speed tissue healing by up to 75%. So that alone is huge. And I know it because after I was learning all about this and I had my mastectomy and they had the drainage tube And I was still going through my training and I was getting sunsets every night because I wanted to heal so quickly. Well, they went to take out my tube and it was completely healed into me. Like they really struggled to remove it because
Oh,
it healed so fast. I'm like, I should have thought this through a little better. Maybe started this after the tube was gone. But so I can vouch that it really does help with recovery and healing, especially of tissue. So yeah, that's all I got.
that's great. All right, Denise, you're up.
I'll go back to the movement that I think everyone should master is getting on and off the floor, because you can make that a variety of exercises. You can do push-ups from that to work on that. You can do single leg squats to do that, trying to get into a pistol squat. You could do some of those bananas to Superman where you're like learning to roll on the floor. I think that you take that trying to get up off the floor different ways, you can make a lot of compound functional movements from that.
That Superman banana thing. That's the old P90X stuff.
Yeah,
That's so, and man, we used to do that. My clients used to complain. They hated that so much. That one they hated. And then they also hated, well, I can't, it was one, I can't remember now, but there was a couple of the P90X exercises that I'd give them that they were just totally losing their mind. But, yeah, so I love the idea of having like a go-to exercise or a foundational exercise for a lot of people. And even if you're listening, you hear the progression, right? So you can, start off with Denise and get up off the ground and practice. And even to the point where you change which leg's in front, like you could sit cross-legged and then get up to your right. And then you can put your right foot in front or your right leg in front and then get up toward your left. So that way you're creating balance in terms of how you get up, and then move toward doing, different movements, right? That whole idea of compound movement. And then you can get crazy with Shelly and carry sandbags around. But, like the sandbag thing, as insane as I think it is, it makes so much sense because we're so nuts when we go and bring our groceries in.
Mhm,
Right? Look at what we do, right? "Oh, I can't carry a sandbag," but no, you'll try to stack 5 grocery bags on one hand so that you don't have to go back and forth 4 times, and
mhm,
that's the same thing, right? Is that carrying these things, in an imbalanced way, we do them every day, but somehow when you slap the word exercise around it, we're like, "No, I can't do that," But
mhm,
we do those things, right? You're reaching up on the shelf to put a can away or put dishes away, and you're bending over to empty the dishwasher, or you're standing there for long periods of time washing dishes. You're doing all these things. So these movements can be extended and you can do them and it doesn't have to be torture. You don't have to freak out, throw up in a can or any of that other nut stuff. So if you had a magic wand, and I'm throwing this at you because it's not there, and you could change a gym to make it more of a welcoming place for everybody, what is one thing that you think that you could change? That like how I'm because we have when you look at gyms, right? Because some of the people here, they may not have living space to be able to do exercises, or they may live in climates that only allow them to exercise certain times a year. And maybe people have the ability to go to a gym, and we've heard about Planet Fitness and different places that are working on that inclusivity kind of piece. But if you could wave a wand at a gym, any gym, and it could be the one that you made up, what is one thing that you think would help create more of an inclusive environment for people?
I think I'm gonna s I'm gonna be I'm shocking myself that I'm even gonna say this, because I'm a very live and live let live person, but I would say that keep your damn clothes on, because I think a lot like, when people are really stripped down to, like, a skinny little jog bra thing, and there's a lot of flesh showing and, all that stuff, it's uncomfortable for some older clients. So I think if they could just keep their clothes on, it might be more inclusive.
Okay,
Is
that's fair.
cost an issue in this scenario where I can wave my magic wand?
No, it's a magic wand. You get
Okay.
to do whatever.
I would actually say, I mean, I love strength and I think everyone needs a strength train, but I would actually say a walking track. And I don't know if it's because I live in Chicago and it's cold here all the time, but I do think that is where people meet up and will consistently show up is to walk with their friends, especially during those icy cold months here in Chicago. Yeah, I would say that, and maybe a heart rate monitor so people can learn how to be in zone 2 and not feel like they have to, like, be totally working out, and they can see how many calories they can burn. So just get them to understand how the metrics can help guide their strengthening too.
I have to throw in because of the walking track. So I'm in Maine, so it's cold here too, right? And one of my friends developed this thing that's at the local Y. They knit while they walk. They're
Oh, wow.
knitting while they walk, and it's this whole group that knits and walks, and it's in the dead of winter. It's fantastic.
That would be so good for that left and right brain
Yeah.
to
Right?
work
It's so
together.
good for your brain. It's everything.
Yeah, I'm gonna
That's
start
awesome.
doing that. My powerlifting gym would like stare at me quite hilariously. So let me see. The thing I'm leaning towards is I've seen in a couple gyms where they, I'd hate to say that I would encourage inclusivity by separating, but there are some babe caves that I've been in where you can do whatever, the good girl, bad girl machine, whatever, and not worry about any guy looking at you. And sure, you can do the exercises with the rest of the gym, but if you want to do some things that maybe you don't want a guy watching you squat or deadlift or whatever, it's nice that they had like an area and they kind of celebrated it. There was little picture areas and stuff for it. That was kind of a cool idea. And so I guess to build on that, I'm trying to think of the older crowd and like, would a 70-year-old woman go into the babe cave? Would they feel comfortable doing that? And maybe there's something in between that we could put in there that's like not grunting powerlifters scaring everybody off, but not chicks with no clothes on doing deadlifts. Like maybe there's another room that's somewhere in the middle.
Well, it's funny, like, I work at one of the gyms, and they brought in all that booty strengthening equipment,
Hmm.
right? So and it's so funny because they carved out half of the ab area and then slapped those machines in there, and the only people that are on them are the women. And I just kinda giggled. I was like, "Okay, well, whatever." Because at first, all of us were all irritated because 'cause we're like, "Oh, why did they do that?" Now it's like, "Oh," because now we don't have places to do. Because 'cause I'll do some yoga stretches or do whatever after I'm done with my workout, and I was like, "Oh, I don't have room now." And then my daughter,
Hmm.
who's 23, is like, "Oh, yeah, but then we could do these." And I was like, "I don't need to be doing all the booty exercises." I mean, yes, I need to, but not with a very, very specific machine that's supposed to work on blowing up my
Hmm.
backside. Like, I need to be balanced, and I make her drag sleds and do all that kind of stuff because at 23 years old, she should be able to do that kind of thing. But, no, and I could see all the points and everything, and it's difficult, and I had a friend who was doing a survey as a part of her dissertation, and she was talking about people and their comfort levels of going into the gyms, and are there gender differences? And, of course, there are because, you walk into any gym and you'll see the women on the cardio equipment, and then you'll see the men on all the weight stuff. And so that idea of, like, kind of like a pool, right? Like where you have a woman's entrance and a male entrance or whatever.
Hmm.
It's like I feel like you should have that at a gym where there should be a specific area because like you said, I know my daughter's very self-conscious and she teases because she said, "Well, when I go to the gym with you, nobody comes and talks to me." Because that's the other piece too, is that there is that like
Yeah.
creeper vibe too about going and being a young woman and going, "Oh, I really don't wanna go because you're just looking at me, and I'm here to work out and not pick up a date," kinda thing. And then there is the other piece of not really knowing how to use the equipment and feeling unsure about it, so I'm just never gonna use it. I'm just gonna go in there, get on the treadmill or ride the elliptical or do whatever, and never test out the weights because that's what she was doing in the beginning. It's just like, "Well, I worked out. I was on the treadmill." I was like, "Well, how nice for you." Like, I'm like, "That's a great warm up. What else did you do?" Like, right? Because that's it. I'm not saying cardio is bad. I'm just saying it needs to be part of whatever you're doing and not the whole thing because that
Hmm.
whole idea of just burning calories is not functional for sure. All right.
Hmm.
So I think everybody's got a lot from our conversation today. So I'll start off with Shelly. What is one thing that you hope that somebody remembers from today's discussion?
I hope they remember that it's important to keep quality of life central when designing your fitness program. Because if you're going to live to 100, but you hate every minute of every rep, it doesn't matter. try to keep in mind when building it that it needs to be something you enjoy. And if that means doing it outside in the sunlight, or maybe I have people, I can't sweat, I hate sweating. Okay, then let's go to the pool. You know, like find ways to make it so that you don't have to depend on your motivation if it's not there. Because if you're not loving it, you're not going to be motivated. It's just like it's like a muscle that you have to keep working, and then it gets to where it's just part of who you are and you want to go. And when you don't go, you feel off. And that's where I would love for people to get.
I'd say it's never too late. You know, even if somehow you've been sedentary for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, it's never too late. You can start today, start slow, start steady, progress, and you know, make a change because you can. Doesn't matter how long you've been out. Yeah.
I'll piggyback off of that one. Then I think it's never too early. You know, if we're
Mhm.
finding followers that are following, you know, important people online and are finding motivation, I think that if they can learn that strength and balance and mobility aren't just about looking good, that it's about longevity. I think we can empower some of these younger generations to want to start working at it now, so that as they age, they're aging healthy, not just getting older.
Yeah. There was something I was listening to, and they were talking about how our lifespan is, I think it's gone down. So we're like 77, 78 in the United States, but our health span is about 60. And so I'm all, damn, that means like I'm going through 17 years of torture, right? Of whatever, you know, disease or pain or something like that before I pass away. And it's like, oh, if I can whittle that down so it's not that big of a deal. Or even, you know, my dad recently passed away, and it was kind of like he was working out, doing whatever. Then he got a cold and then he died. And it was very quick. Right. So he didn't really feel that huge shift of like, oh, I can't do anything. I can't live my life kind of thing. And that's kind of, you know, he was 89 years old, so he didn't get cheated for sure. And I love that he was able to be as active as he could be till the end. And I think that's something that people need to probably work on, right? That shortening of that time, right? You want to be functional. You want to be, we're not our parents. Right. A lot of our parents, when they were our age, they were already like, oh, and part of it was lack of nutrition, right? Because a lot of them depression times and all that stuff. But there was also a different concept about aging. And it was more of a group understanding. It's like, oh yeah, once we hit this, we're just going to turn to mush and not be able to function. And I think we're coming in with a different mindset. And I love you, Andrea, because you're like, I'm going to kick ass. You don't look 68 years old. And I know you could probably kick my ass. And I love it. That's a wonderful thing. It's like, I want to be like that at, you know, 68, 75. I want to be able to walk. I want to be able to do all those things. And I think that's important for everybody to understand, is that, right? It's never too late. It's never too early. And
I love that.
that's awesome. Yeah, that's definitely a bell ringer. All right. Shelly, how can we get in touch with you if somebody wants to work with you or want to hear more about what you have to say and information you can share?
So probably the easiest is on my Instagram, Shelly Cannon. I do have a company that I've started that focuses on resiliency. It's called Everstrong, and we handle nutrition, well, supplements and some fitness gear and apparel, stuff like that. But we're just getting started, and we're going to start really helping to celebrate people who've shown great resiliency. That's kind of what
Fantastic.
we're.
Andrea?
So my company's Mighty Fit, so you can Google Mighty Fit. You'll probably get to me. I am on Instagram, Coach Andrea Lepcio. So you can just remember those peculiar spelling of my name, Lepcio, will get you there.
Fantastic. And Denise?
On social media, we're Smith PT Run. And on Facebook or on Instagram, we're Smith PT Run. And on Facebook, it's Smith Physical Therapy Plus. We do virtual work to help athletes of different levels with running technique, dance, medicine, that stuff. But, you know, just put in Smith Physical Therapy. I know there's a lot of Smiths in the world, but
Smiths and Jones.
yeah.
Ladies, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And if you're listening, next month, we're going to talk about women's health and performance and breaking barriers in sports. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was great to meet you guys.
Thank you. It was lovely, everyone.
Thank you for
Thanks.
having us.